Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of simPRO Chats with Daz and Adz. Welcome again on this beautiful day. I'm Darren Whitby from Platinum Consultants and my partner.
Yep, I'm Adam from AMAC Consulting. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad at all. Ready to go for another episode.
So we're going to continue on the theme today of catalog and further that into stock. Stock and the catalog items are fairly closely related. So if you haven't watched our first two episodes of part 1 and part 2 of catalog, please do, because there'll be things that we refer to in this that you probably need to have seen in the previous episode. So we'll wait for you to return. Thank you. Welcome back. So there's a lot to know. We're going to try not to blow this episode out too much like we tend to do. We're just so excited about all the things in simPRO. It really, once we start talking, we just get a bit carried away. So sorry if our episodes go for a bit long. Hopefully they're still useful. We do enjoy the features that bring our customers, businesses, value and reporting and, making everything a lot easier for them and more efficient. So I'm thinking we get straight into it and we talk about stock. What is stock? So we said in our materials episodes, our catalog episodes, the difference between material as a catalog and stock is something that you have purchased that you technically have on a shelf. Catalog is something that you can potentially purchase, but you haven't got it yet. So when you buy stock, they go into a storage device. You can create in simPRO as many storage devices as you like, different vehicles, a warehouse, a workshop, different offices that you have if you have a multi-office type business. All of these can be different storage devices. So when you buy something through the purchase ordering area and you choose stock, you then choose which storage device will this stock go into. And that's what a storage device is. It's a place that stock can be kept.
Not to be confused with the stock location.
That's right, which we will cover a little bit later. And it's actually one that we didn't cover in the catalog episode, which is probably a good idea. So now, why would we want to keep things in storage devices? What can we do with them? To tell me that, I have here the stock expert, Adam from AMAC Consulting. Can you tell us, please, about what we can do with our stock once we've got it?
Yeah, cool. So I wouldn't go as far to call me an expert, but I know a little bit. I know enough to be dangerous. So, okay. So what are we going to do with stock location? Oh, sorry, storage devices. So first things first, in terms of how simPRO handles stock and the reason why we would have different storage devices. So storage devices are, like Daz said, just in a location where stock can be held. So the reasons why you'd have multiple storage devices would be because you wanted to have your vans set up as portable storage devices. So that way your guys in the field can assign stock from their van. You know how much stock is in each particular van. Probably one of the lesser known reasons why you would probably have multiple storage devices is because simPRO works by a FIFO system, which is first in, first out. Now, being a FIFO system, essentially what that means is that when you buy something, the system will actually store when it was bought and how much you paid for it. So it's not an average cost system like a lot of accounting packages are, like the likes of MYOB. MYOB, I think, is an average cost system, whereas simPRO is a first in, first out. So if you've got a particular, let's say you've got a particular project running and it's a massive project that's going to go for years, and you wanted to separate out what you're paying for a GPO for the project versus what you're paying for a GPO for standard stock, you might set up a storage device specifically for that project. So everything that you're buying at that particular value gets stored at that stock location, and everything else that you buy for your day-to-day goods gets stored in your normal stock location. So you can be confident what you're assigning to the job is at the correct stock value.
Yes, absolutely.
Um,
And if you bought something for $5 5 years ago that's still in stock as far as simPRO is concerned, and it currently costs $50, it will go, the first few items will go onto your job at $5. So if you've seen some strange values and you go, but this thing costs $50, well, not when you first bought it.
mm-hmm.
So we'll get to
All of them at $5.
yeah. And you'll see an alert that says the price that you're using on the markup is different from the price that you paid, or something along those lines, or the price that was that you purchased it for. This doesn't have to be just that you purchased something right now and it came in. It could also be when it was purchased on the stock, 5 years ago or whenever.
Totally.
So some things that we can do within or to storage devices, we can transfer stock. So you can transfer stock to different storage devices, and you could transfer stock from a storage device to a job. When you're on a job, you can go to the stock tab. There's a few different ways of doing this. It's different if it's a project or a service, but let's say you open a project job, go to the cost center, you can go to the stock tab and what's in stock and just you can have a look at what's in stock and just grab it.
Mm-hmm.
You can also do that from the storage device. So if you go into stock, you have a look at your warehouse and go, oh, I've got some of these. You can tick a box and say transfer to job. Mm-hmm. It asks you what job and you can do it that way. Mm-hmm. You can't transfer items from the mobile app. It would be good to see that at some point. I do know that that's something that a lot of people ask for, that, my technicians grab stock from the warehouse in the morning. I want them to be able to transfer it to their storage device. Unfortunately, we can't do that. They can use it from the warehouse on a job. They can't transfer their own stock. They would need enterprise access for that.
Mm-hmm. And one quick warning, if you do have your settings in your mobile set up to say restrict to storage device, and you go into the employee card and say Adam works out of Adam's van, that's going to be the only location that I can assign stock from. So if you do need them to assign it from different locations, you need to make sure the system's configured accordingly.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about what is commonly known as min-max levels, so what simPRO calls as restock levels.
Yep. Okay, cool. So in terms of the min-maxes, now, this had always been a bit of a bugbear of mine that you could never import this information. And thankfully, there was an update released a few months back, which we covered off in a previous episode, that it now actually lets you import your mins and maxes against particular storage devices. So that's awesome. So what is a min-max? So what it does essentially is says there's two key numbers that you can put against the storage device for a particular stock item. When you want to be alerted that you're underneath that threshold. So if I've got 5 set up there, as soon as I go underneath that, so I've got 4, I will get an alert to let me know I've now gone underneath my minimum level. The max level is what you're going to replenish that item up to. So if you said, when I go underneath 4, I want to replenish up to 10. So if I also create a purchase order from my restock, it would buy another 6 to get it up to the 10. Alternatively, I can also transfer stock from one storage device to another one to appease the maximum threshold as well. So it's a really good way to get alerts to let you know that you're running low on items. I would like to see simPRO evolve a little bit further to manage this in better places than the alerts, because you'll end up with a huge amount of alerts and it's really hard you can't sort them or categorize them. It's just a ton of alerts. So I'd like to see that kind of evolve a little bit further, because it's just a messy way to manage it, but it is a way to manage it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And if you're listening, Wayne, and doing the notifications update area, we would like to see some notifications related to storage devices running low on stock, so email or some sort of alert. And also, while we're at it, employee licenses would be fantastic as well.
Yeah. Just a report would be ace, just like a min-max report. So just like a minimum stock report would be awesome. So you could just run the report, even from the report, just go and tick the boxes and say transfer or rebuy or whatever it is, and filter through storage devices or stock or whatever it may be. But
yeah, or even wherever the storage device is displayed, there is an alert with a quantity in a little circle that tells you how many items you're running low on. So when you're in a job, a quote, or looking at the stock, you can see that without having to go in there and do any more work. So
what about
stock locations.
yeah, I was going to say stock locations. We've kind of covered that off already, but what I know we haven't. We covered off storage devices, not to be confused with stock locations. I just confused myself.
Yeah, see how easy it is. Confuse the expert. So a storage device is the place where the item is physically kept in a geographical area. So the warehouse, a vehicle can be a storage device. A stock location is like a bin location, commonly known as. So it could be a shelf number, it could be a row number, it could be an area within the warehouse or the vehicle or whatever that it's kept. So we can actually do now, thanks to an update, per individual storage device, we can have stock locations for an individual item. So if you imagine you've got two different warehouses, a bit like, let's use Bunnings for an example. If you go to Bunnings and you're looking for the fasteners and screws, nuts and bolts, it could be aisle 26 in one Bunnings store, but it could be aisle 13 in another Bunnings store. And therefore the two different storage devices, i.e. the two different Bunnings warehouses, actually have two different stock locations. One would say aisle 26 and the other would say aisle 13. I'm pretty sure that's what I said before. So the stock locations is actually really useful because when you're doing a stock take, you can actually sort by stock location. So that way you can do all of aisle 1 or shelf 1 or area 1 or carton 1, and someone can go through and just do those items. And then someone else can do, so you can break your stock take into various bite-sized pieces. Very handy, very good. And the other hand is if you're actually looking at the catalog and you just want to find if you have any of these items, you want to go search in the warehouse, it'll say it's in aisle 1, shelf 3. So you can go straight to it. And if you refer back to our catalog episode, you could click on it and it'll actually show you an image of this particular item. So when you get there, you actually know what you're looking for. All of the episodes combined. It's a good idea. You can import stock locations as well for the catalog items, along with your min max or restock quantities as well. So good idea. Just a quick tip: you have to import the catalog items first, then you can import the stock / min max quantities. You can't do it all in one hit.
And the other good thing is that if you're doing a stock take, which is literally the next topic, when you are doing the stock take, if you wanted to print off the stock take form, the stock location actually appears on that form as well. So,
and it adheres to the sort column that you would have done previously to make sure it's in the right order.
Totally. So stock takes.
Yes.
Let's have a chat about stock takes, man.
Lots of different methods to do a stock take. Let's cover the most basic first.
All right. So which one's most basic? So stock adjustment. What's that?
Just the standard way. The way that if you went to the help guide, what's it going to tell you to do?
Okay. So if you want to do a stock take, we can go to our materials in our little sidebar, click on stock takes, and then just there's a blue button that says stock take. So when you do that,
right click on storage device, stock take.
Or you can do that. Yep. That's another way to do it. So, when you go there and you go to do a stock take, it's going to say, what do you want to stock take? Because as we've spoken about, there's multiple storage devices. Pick which one you want to do. And from there, it's pretty straightforward, man. There's two options. There's a stock take and a stock adjustment. If this is the first time that you're doing it, it makes literally no difference which one you use because it's empty anyway. So you can pick a stock take. So when you go to stock take, you're going to see that warning. I've seen that warning about 1 million times. So it says changing to stock take resets all counted variances to 0. I think that's what it says, or something along those lines. So essentially what it's doing is it's saying it's going to reset everything to 0 if you do a stock take. A stock adjustment is basically just saying, once I've done a stock take and I've got levels of stock in my storage device, do I want to add a positive or negative variance to my current counted stock? So if the counted stock, if your stock in simPRO said 10 and you've counted 8, so you type in, I've now got 8 instead of 10, it'll do a negative variance of 2. So that would just let you adjust the amounts on the fly in terms of how much you legitimately have in stock. But if you do change it to a stock take, every one of those items will be removed and you need to start again. So
the stock take is wipe everything out and let me choose what goes back in, and stock adjustments is keep everything in there and let me adjust the quantity based on what I count.
Yep, spot on. So you're just adding positive or negative variances to what the system stock is versus your counted stock.
So how about min-max quantities? Do they affect stock takes at all?
Good question. Do they? Well, I wouldn't think so, because
So what? Sorry, it was a loaded question. I probably should have preempted that. So the min-max levels, if you run out of stock, because it's got a min level on it, it actually keeps it in the list of potential stock. If you don't have a min-max level on it, when you're doing a stock take, the item has disappeared from the list. So it's a good reason to do min-max levels so that your standard stock item list is always there and you can put quantities in. And if you run out, it'll tell you that you're running out. But yeah, so they're all, I mean, it doesn't really affect it, but it affects it in a way that when you open your stock, if there is a min-max level on it, it'll actually show the item even though there's 0 in stock. If there's no min-max level on it, it just disappears.
Totes. Actually, one thing we don't have on our list of what we to talk about that I probably will introduce probably towards the end is just viewing the stock and how the stock actually gets handled inside of simPRO, the different stages that a piece of stock will move through before it actually disappears. So
good idea.
Between it being obviously on order, then on order assigned, or in stock assigned, and then how it eventually goes away and when it goes away. So I think it's going to be really important to understand. So we'll add that to our rolling list.
Absolutely. Well, that's kind of forms part of the modified table view, which is why I put that in there, because one of the first things I do is remove certain columns because they can be sort of deceiving.
Yeah, and then add up columns in.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll let you cover that. Handball. The next one I'd like to talk about is restocking. So the quick and easy way is if I want to buy some stuff to stock, I'll just raise a purchase order and select that storage device. Nice and easy. If you have set your min-max levels, you will get a warning, but also at any point in time, you can go to your materials menu and stock, and you can actually then hit restock button. And that restock button will then ask you, do you want to restock from a purchase order? So you're going to buy the items in. It also say, do you want to restock from a supplier quote? So maybe I'm buying such a large sum of items, I'll send it out to a few different suppliers to see who can give me the best price on the stock. And the third option is, would you like to restock from another storage device? So typically the restocking from storage device would be, I'm restocking a vehicle back up to their max quantities from the warehouse. And that will then give you an option to do a quick transfer of all the items that's required out of the warehouse to go into the vehicle so that you bring it back up to its normal levels. And it's a great way to actually have like a picking list. That transfer is a pick list of what someone has to get out of the workshop or warehouse to put into their vehicle in the morning. Restocking from a purchase order essentially just creates a purchase order excuse me, back up to the max levels that we set. So it'll order just enough to get up to your max levels. You can adjust those, you can add more items onto that order, but it provides you with a starting point of what it thinks you need to order to get back to where you want to.
But you really need to have your mins and maxes set up for that to actually work. Otherwise, it doesn't know what it's ordering up to, and it doesn't even know what to order.
Absolutely. And if only you set min-max levels on your vehicles, if you're doing vehicle stock, it's quite useful. Otherwise, just set min-max levels on the key items that you know that you're tracking quite carefully so that it's going to be relevant and useful. And at least it will remind you to reorder those items.
Yeah. And anything your day-to-day service catalog is essentially the ones that you really want to focus on. Everything that you need to have in stock to continue to do your job. And the things that you want to try and avoid your guys consistently going to wholesalers to buy every single day and getting the prices wrong every single day and causing a lot more administrative work every single day. So they're the ones you really need to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. That kind of goes into some reports. So I'm going to scoot through one of these reports. We'll kind of go one to one. So the first thing I'm going to do is, this one's actually not on here. So I'm going to do the transfer stock report, because that's probably one that directly feeds into what Daz was just talking about with transferring stock. So if you are doing the whole transferring of stock, so you are kind of managing your guys' vans or utes internally by setting up mins and max levels. So if you are doing that and you actually are replenishing them based on what they've used throughout the day, a really good report to run at the end of the day, or before you hand it to your storeman or you go downstairs, is to run the stock transfer report. Print that off so you actually know exactly what you need to go downstairs and put in a box for a particular storage device for the guys to just rock up in the morning, grab that box, load their gear, and then boot off from there. A really good handy report to be able to run if you are moving stock around from one spot to another spot.
Absolutely.
What's another one you want to do, Daz?
Well, I'm going to steal my favorite, which is the unassigned stock report. We have actually talked about this in a previous updates episode, and hopefully we can remember to put a link in there to that episode where we covered it in detail. But essentially, the unassigned stock report will look at jobs and tell you what hasn't been assigned. And from there, you can actually place an order for that. But also there's a few other things you can do with that. So you can see if there's any stock that hasn't been assigned that should have been, because maybe I don't want to order it. Maybe the job's actually done, but someone's forgotten to assign the stock. And the biggest problem with trying to track stock carefully is just people not actually assigning stock correctly. So this can also be a fault finding report of, well, this job's done. We've actually assigned everything that we should have, or at least we've installed everything we should have. Why are some of these items on this job not assigned out of stock? Is it because we didn't use it, or is it because someone made a mistake and that means our stock levels could be wrong? So that's a really good report for that reason as well.
And if a job does get archived, or it gets fully invoiced and then obviously fully paid and archived off, does the stock still remain in that report, or does it drop off the report?
It drops off the report. So there's a very good, I guess, kind of procedure to run is before you archive, you either should look at the job itself, or you should run that report quickly and filter by the job number if you want to.
Alternatively, if your triggers aren't set up properly and your jobs aren't being archived and they're just sitting in the wrong spots and jobs are legitimately finished and that report's out of control, a really nice way to clean it back up again is just to archive the jobs to then get the stock, get that report a little bit cleaner. The stock assigned report is the complete opposite to the unassigned stock report, funnily enough, which shows all the stock that has now been assigned to jobs. So I don't think there's an awful lot more to say about that. It's just...
Well, there's a few good uses for it, I suppose. Just to give our viewers a bit of a context there. If you want to know the value that is being used up out of a certain device, so how many dollars worth of stock or which items of stock have been assigned out of a particular device, it's a very good, last month, this guy used 2 kilometers of cable. But when I check our records, we never sold 2 kilometers of cable. What's going on? Stuff like that. Or just, you just want to know which device you're using the most stock out of, because maybe you want to actually increase your max levels to make sure you don't run out so much. So there's lots of things, even stock values we can use out of different devices as well. So I want to know between this date and this date what the value of stock that we used was. So there's lots of things you can do with it. Financial as well as just a bit of fault finding or checking.
Yeah. And again, if jobs are archived, they will drop out of that report as well. So you're going to have to catch it before do
they out of stock assigned? I'm not sure that they do.
Assigned until it's assigned. It's assigned is assuming it's, well, again, maybe we'll double check this, but my understanding of that report was it's assigned until it's sold. Once it's sold, it's no longer assigned. It's now the customer's, and it's no longer assigned to the job.
Okay. We'll check that. I'm pretty sure that the stock assigned reports, regardless of the status of the job, it's just a list of items that have been assigned out of the storage device to a job. But let's check it and we'll see, and we'll post it up somewhere. I definitely could be wrong on that, but that's
so could I. Look, if your understanding is different to mine, there's a good chance that your understanding is correct and mine is incorrect.
Well, we'll see. I'm fairly sure, but I've been wrong before, and it will happen again. So
simPRO does do a pretty good job at making you look like a fool at the best of times.
Well, there's hundreds of thousands of individual settings and things to remember. It's really, as far as I can tell, it's not possible to know everything there is to know. We try, but it's very difficult. So if we're both wrong and then there's actually a third option that we don't know about, go easy on us, please. But don't forget to comment.
Awesome.
Right.
Okay.
What's next?
The modified table view. Let's go through the modified table view. I might get you to go through that because there's a bit.
I'll start, and I won't take your thunder regarding the assigned jobs. But the modified table view, it's very important that you choose the columns correctly. This will come into full effect when Adz tells you about sort of the stages of stock assigning. But what I normally do is the first thing I get rid of is assigned on jobs, because that can be completely misleading and you'll have thousands of items listed. There are some occasions when you want to use it, and Adz will sort of cover that a little bit more detail in a second. But if you get rid of assigned on jobs and value on jobs, that reduces the list really to what's in stock and on order only. And for most people, that's what they want. So when you first get simPRO out of the box, you're going to see everything that's ever been ordered until a job was archived. So what I recommend is just show me what I've got in stock, maybe on stock value, maybe it's not that important, it's more the quantity, and then also what's on order, and I also enable how many days it's been in stock for. So if you bought something and it's been the oldest one has been on shelf for 3 years, when you're using that item, you have to be careful of a couple of things. Firstly, that the value of the item you're using might not be the current value that it is now because it's 3 years old. So the cost of it might not hit the job correctly, or it is technically correctly, but it's a 3-year-old price. The other thing is you're probably holding too many of them. If you don't use them in 3 years, why are you carrying 100 of them in stock? Maybe you should consider reducing your stock quantity. But for the more detailed view of the different stages of stock, I hand you over to my colleague, Adam McVeigh.
Thank you. Okay, cool. So in terms of how stock works inside of simPRO, so stock kind of has a bit of a 3-step process on how it kind of gets in and goes out of simPRO. So essentially, if you've got a piece of stock, essentially it's sitting in stock. So as soon as you assign that piece of equipment to a job, it then moves out of stock and moves to the assigned to jobs column. So it's going to sit there assigned to a job until that job has been fully invoiced and then paid off by the customer. And then what it's going to do is it's going to remove itself from the assigned to jobs column and then basically be the customers. So in terms of the procedure of how simPRO wants to handle it, it's in stock, it's assigned to jobs, and then it's out of stock and out of assignment from jobs. So in terms of how it can get a little bit confusing is if you've got a piece of, let's just say that you've whipped into the warehouse and you've seen there's 5 PowerPoints in stock. So what you can do is you can say, okay, well, I know there's 5 out in the warehouse at the moment. If you then look in simPRO and it says there's only 3 in stock, where's the other 2 gone? Well, it could be that you don't have the column turned on in your modified table view that says assigned to jobs. So if you go modified table view and turn that column on, because I don't think it's on by default, I think it's actually off by default. You then turn that on, you might see that there's 3 in stock, 2 assigned to jobs, which then goes, okay, well, that makes sense because someone hasn't picked them up out of the warehouse yet. So in reality, even though there's 5 out there, there's only 3 available. Then what you could do is you might say, okay, well, I need the other 2. So let's have a look and see where they're assigned to, unassign them from those jobs, and then you can start reassigning them to other jobs. But that's kind of the procedural, the process that simPRO wants to take to get a piece of equipment in stock to eventually sold to the customer. So one of the things that I generally always do is turn on the assigned to jobs column in the modified table view. So if you were to add those two together, you can actually see in reality how much is still yours until it's been sold to a customer. So that's kind of like the process that simPRO wants to go through to be able to get it in stock, assigned to jobs, then over to the customer. That's why my gut feeling saying the assigned stock report is assigned to job stock report, because as soon as it's then sold to a customer, it then drops off. You're shaking your head like I'm wrong.
I don't think so, but we'll see. We'll see. Can I add something to this? And I think this is great because I completely disagree with you about the assigned to jobs column, which is good. Like I almost 100% agree with everything you ever do, and we're pretty much on the same page of everything. But I don't like that column. It's extremely misleading and it causes all kinds of problems. And so I usually recommend to turn it off, which is good. I like that we're finally have a difference of opinion. So the reason is because if you do any job that lasts for a long time, any kind of project work or any kind of service job, even that could go over multiple days or multiple weeks, once you've used that item, and you've added it to the job and it's installed, it's literally screwed onto the wall of the customer's house, it's, in my opinion, not yours anymore and shouldn't show on any stock report as far as what's currently in stock. That's, and from my perspective and my angle, I like to keep the stock very simple. Here's what you've got. Here's what's on order. End of story. Whereas if you enable that, it shows lots of items, which looks like they're kind of in stock, but they're not really. Is it a job that we've got in the workshop somewhere, or is it a job that's already been installed? So it really depends on the customer. But for most people, I try and make it more simple. But I completely understand why you would enable it, because if you've got jobs that are,
it's forward plan jobs more so.
Workshop, or you put stock aside for a fair while before it's issued on site, it makes complete sense to do it that way. But I still disagree. You should disable that column.
Well, I mean, it's like from my perspective, it's more so if you've got those jobs that have got longer lead times. So if you've got jobs that have got longer lead times in the system and you're trying to plan for your jobs and something else comes up that's more important that you want to steal some stock from one job, hey? Rob from Peter to give to Paul, but if you don't know what you're robbing, then you don't know who you can give it to. So look, it is going to be a horses for courses thing. It's definitely not for everyone. It's probably more for those that have got that niche need for that to be on, but it's good to understand at least the process of getting from in to out, because unless you understand that process, if you understand the process, that you can kind of manipulate it and you can work within the confines of how simPRO wants you to work with. But if you don't realize that it's still technically in stock until it's been sold, then that's how simPRO wants to work. It's trying to step it out. But look, Daz obviously has his point of view. My point of view is mine, and again, what I generally tend to say to customers, I'll explain it. I'll give them the options. If they like what they're seeing, they want to turn it on, they can turn it on. If they don't like it because it's confusing, like Daz said, then we just turn it off. It kind of comes down to a case by case or a needs by needs basis. But that's kind of the way that it works. So whether you want it on or off, entirely up to you. You can trial it on, trial it off, and see which way works best.
Yeah, and I'm sure we've said this 1,000 times so far, but there's no right and wrong way to set up your simPRO and to set up your modified table views and to use it. The way that works best for you is the right way for you. So I'm quite happy that we finally have a difference of opinion, so you can get two different ideas, not the same ideas said in two different ways.
Totally.
I just want to add in there that the assigned stock report doesn't only show you jobs that are active. It shows you jobs, anything that's assigned at any point, regardless of filter. Having said that, there is a job stage filter that you can say, I just want to see the jobs that are in progress or that are pending. And this is the assigned stock report I would use to see, I need this part. I want to know, show me all the jobs that are still pending or in progress that I can steal this part from, and you can filter by job stage. So based on what Adz said, you definitely can see only the ones that are pending and in progress if you want, or you can just see, I want to see what's been assigned within a date range, regardless of where the stage is. So we can both be right, because it works both ways.
I like it. Let's both be right. There is no wrong unless simPRO proves me wrong.
All right. Well, that's I think finished us on another interesting topic. Pretty much our third in the series of materials, with the first two being catalog and this one being stock. I think we covered a lot here. Hopefully you got some use out of it. I've been Darren Whitby, and still am Darren Whitby from Platinum Consultants. And you can reach me, darren@platinumconsultants.com.au, or have a look at my webpage. I will be updating my website very shortly. It's a little bit old at the moment, but it does have my contact details on there. Unlike Adam McVeigh's website, which is up to date and looking schmick. Where can we find you, Adz?
Yeah, you can find me at info@amac.consulting, or my web address is amac.consulting. That's literally it. So yeah, it's been great, been a great chat. It's been fun to have a bit of a difference in opinion towards the end. It's it's been really good. So thank you so much for joining, and until the next time, we'll see you then.
Bye for now.
Bye.